I suppose the key thing that I've been pushing along the way is to make sure that the people right from the front end all the way through the process understand why I want the data that I'm asking at the back end.
Today I'm joined by Alan Strange from Sophro. Alan has a very successful career pricing products like after the event legal expenses, travel and breakdown. So let's meet Alan. Hello, Alan, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Thanks a lot for being on today. So the first thing I want to ask you is, how did you get where you are today?
Okay, as with most people, I fell into insurance. I did my degree was in banking and finance. And whilst I was looking around for a job in bank, I started temping at ITT London Edinburgh in Worthing. They had their head office there. So one of the big employers there. And I was in the motor call centre and never really thought about insurance before, but I enjoyed the work. And so I decided I would stay there. So I started off answering queries from brokers, dealing with underwriting questions, and really, I've always been interested in statistics and data. So looking for other roles where I can enhance that area. And the job came up in the call center doing the shift planning and call forecasting. I took on that role and building regression models in Lotus 123 in those days and pre Excel and yeah, really enjoyed doing that, but missed the hands-on underwriting side. And so looked at internal vacancies within the company. I got offered a couple of roles, one as actuarial student or another in the household line of business in the underwriting team doing the performance reporting and analysis there. I looked at both of them and thought I really enjoyed the sort of hands-on underwriting. I didn't want to just be stairs as it was, just doing the numbers, passing it down and say, here you go, follow our instructions. In the underwriting team, I got to deal with queries from the clients, make underwriting decisions. I managed a few relationships. I did the performance reporting for various large schemes. So we underwrote a number of large build society schemes, lots of data there, building up triangulations, seeing how things panned out, looking at the rating reviews. So I really enjoyed my time there. But then along came Norwich Union and acquired the company, and they wanted to move all of the head office functions to Norwich, and I didn't really fancy relocating to Norwich. So I started looking around for another role. And one of the clients at London Edinburgh was a company called Intermediary Systems Limited, who did a lot of what if pricing work. So they did some software where you could put in your criteria and it'll tell you what the whole market charged for that bit, typically for benchmark pricing. And I asked them if they had any vacancies going and went and joined them and building perils models for households, so flood models, substance models, and so on, doing some lifestyle profiling, building rating structures for various insurers. Again, it really helped me with statistical techniques and building these models from the data, where to find the data, what to do with it. Enjoyed that. But the problem was you'd build these rating structures for the insurers, they'd go away and apply them. They'd never come back and say, thanks, we made lots of money. Or even worse, sorry, we lost lots of money. I guess we probably would have heard us losing lots of money, but I missed knowing the results of my work. So I wanted to get back into insurance. So I then went to Europe Assistance in Haywards Heath as a development underwriter initially, which was looking at motor breakdown, travel insurance, home emergency, kind of niche add-on type product. And it was surprising to me just how little use they made of the data that they were capturing. It was pretty much, you want a motor breakdown policy, here's your price. You want a travel insurance policy, you're going to Europe, are you going to the rest of the world, are you going to America? That was pretty much of the sophistication in your pricing, maybe a bit around the age, a broad age band, so over 65, under 65. But there was so much data there where you could break down an injury or an accident. What type of illness did someone have? Big differences between costs, medical costs in Spain, so even with the E11, costs in Spain, costs in France, they could vary significantly. So I was trying to build that level of sophistication. So I persuaded them to get me a license from SPSS. I built up a team of analysts there to start adding more sophistication to the products. And then one day my boss came along and said, do you want to come to a meeting this afternoon? Okay, what's it about? Do you want to come to a meeting? Okay, sounds interesting. So I sat down there. So we had our external actuaries in as well, and we had a central client in talking about this weird product called after the event legal expenses insurance, which I'd never come across. And it's an 18 afternoon. listening to what this product was, how it worked. So that was good. And at the end of the meeting, my boss said, Alan here's going to be pricing this product. I've been, what?
Brilliant.
Oh, okay.
That you've just heard of.
I remember being paid. So this was back in about 2001. So this was
Yeah.
a new product. There wasn't a lot of data out. So I then spent the next few weeks just trying to find anything I could on this product and try and figure out what on earth I was going to do, how I was going to price it. And so it's a steep learning curve, but it was fun and interesting. And because of that, I ended up heading up the expenses team at Europe Systems, but also any other and new products that came along would be passed my way, work out how on earth to price. So we did that for a few years, but then Europe Systems as a wider company decided they wanted to go back to basics, focus on what worked for the company throughout Europe and the world. And predominantly they're an assistance company, they do insurance. They certainly don't do this niche little legal expenses insurance cover that works in England and Wales, but nowhere else in the world. So they were looking to pull back from that, whereas my boss was keen to do his own thing. And he brought me along as he went to set up his own insurance company in Gibraltar called Lump Insurance. And so I left EA in 2005 to become underwriting director of LAMP, and we focused on legal expenses insurance. We also liked medical health care and various other niche products that came along that we felt with better knowledge and in the market, or more data than the market, we could do without massive overheads and call centers. So we were doing things like gap insurance, motor warranty. We supported a household MGA. So any kind of niche where we apply knowledge rather than resource to make it work. And so again, I got a bit of variety there in pricing, made sure from day one there, we were building our own technical systems because there isn't an off-the-shelf system that works with these kind of lines of business. So at least I could make sure that the data I wanted back end, I was capturing front end, and making sure I had access to that. So putting it off the SQL server so I could then do what I wanted. I didn't want someone to come along and say, here you go, here's your standard reports that you get every month. So no, I'll write my own report. Give me the data. Because if I want to change it, I don't want to talk to someone in IT and wait 3 months for them to prioritize it. And then I can build it myself. I'd rather have too much data and aggregate it than not have enough and then think, how on earth am I going to capture it now? So I had a lot of fun developing that. I moved into role as CIO after a few years there. So focusing more on the back end pricing and analysis and less on the front end underwriting. And this was around the time that Microsoft were heavily investing in this area. So we had Power Pivot was becoming and merging into Power Query and Power BI. Managed to come across that quite early in the days. So back when they were launching at the start, and been letting that ever since with all the developments that have come alongside that with Power Automate, Power Apps and so on. So it's looking at new technique and applying those with the various lines of business that we were writing. Unfortunately, ran into financial problems. A lot of the after the event premium was deferred, so you didn't get paid until the case is concluded. You had the defendants who were fighting how much premium they had to pay. So holding up the cash flow, and essentially we ran out of cash. So looking around for a new role, got talking to a mutual friend of mine to an MGA that was setting up in the legal expenses space called Sophro, and taken on there as head of underwriting and analytics. And again, the advantage there was they did have a technical system that had been used elsewhere, had been developed for ATE insurance, and it was easier then to add on the extra bits I wanted to that rather than start from scratch. So again, making sure I captured that data, but I didn't want to be just boxed into one particular line of business. And positive there, I also had the opportunity to get involved in our intellectual property MGA as well as Chief Data Analytics Officer. Again, not a lot of data out there, trying to find what I could and apply it as best I could to what we were trying to do. So the USPTO, there's a lot of data there on litigation in America, on patents. So pulling that information, how to match that onto our data, how to apply that to build out a pricing model. So it's all been very interesting, and picking up what I can with pricing techniques along the way, working alongside external actuaries. I have done in various roles, working with the regulator when Solvency II came in, looking at what needed to go into that. So whenever we had the actuaries in for a quarterly reserve review, that bring up on the big screen their spreadsheets and say, this is how we got to our answer, and I'll be getting along the way. I've had to and copying down what they did in Excel so I could replicate it, which had the advantage that instead of every quarterly reserve review, you would force the company's results to match what the actuaries were saying. You could end up with a big jump up or down depending on how the book had performed in the end. And I wanted to smooth that, so I would take what they were doing on the quarterly basis, apply it as best I could in the interim month. So it made a much smaller jump at the end when you had the reserve review, and hopefully give a better idea of where the result was going to end up.
And
So
what's it like working in an MGA where you're the only pricing person?
there are positives and negatives.
Hmm.
And on the plus side, then I can just get on with it, build my own thing, and don't have to go through various levels of laying off. And it means like I keep my finger in a lot of pie. I'm doing the data engineering, so I'm getting the data, I'm cleaning it up. I'm then doing the analysis, I'm then applying the results of that analysis rather than in a particular silo, just doing a bit of it. So yes, so there's advantages to being able to have the review right from the start to the finish. The disadvantage is no sort of sounding board, or if I get stuck, I've got Mr. Google perhaps rather than another team member to look at and bounce some ideas off and suggestions. And also, again, being a small company, you can't really justify the expense. So, or
Yeah.
you shiny things that you see out there, I think, oh, that would make life so much easier. But for a niche player, small company, you're just never going to justify the cost.
Yeah, I was quite lucky in my career as well. I started in quite niche products where I got to do everything start to end. And then as I moved more senior, I actually moved into the bigger products. So it was then I started running teams, but I already knew how to do every part of the job. So what would you say, Alan, is your mission for general insurance pricing?
So I suppose the key thing that I've been pushing along the way is to make sure that the people right from the front end all the way through the process understand why I want the data that I'm asking at the back end. Because if they don't understand that, you end up not capturing any data at all because they just leave it blank. And then you try and get around that by making it a mandatory field. And I had an example of this at a previous company where when I started doing some analysis of the age of the customer, it was amazing how many customers have the same date of birth. And it turned out the basic person who was inputting this, so they didn't have the information, you just put in his own date of birth.
Yeah.
And so you end up with rubbish out because it's not captured. And you just need to explain at the front end why I want this. They may not see it for what they're trying to do. If they're just handing claims, they don't need it for that role. Doesn't matter. They need to see the wider picture. So it's just making sure all the way along, as much as possible, we can capture the data that I need and they understand why I'm asking for it to try and get that buy-in so that they don't try and find, because if there is a way around it, someone will find a way around it.
Yeah. Do you know, I can remember a similar story where it was the postcode of where the loss event occurred. It doesn't matter which line of business it was on, but there was a really strange number that were all at the same postcode, which turned out to actually be the office of the claims handlers.
Yeah, so I see that one, as well.
Absolutely. And what would you say then is your vision for the future of general insurance pricing?
The key bit is making sure that, as well, if you are capturing all this data, you actually use it. So I've done some work with an MGA in the past, where
Yeah.
they've taken up lots of space, but they just weren't using it. I suppose it's a case of there's so much where to start, but there is a fact of why hold it if you're not going to use it. So make sure that you are utilizing what you've got, understanding why you've got it, what you can do with it. Certainly going to be greater use of AI in the sort of the data wrangling aspect. A lot more tools coming in to help you with that. A lot more click and drag rather than the hard coding that it can
Yep.
to make
Mhm.
to shape that data. And then it's coming to a more sort of unified solution so you don't have data in various bits. So Microsoft Fabric is a great example of that, where they're building together a solution where you've got your data lake and then you put your warehouse on top of that. You can do your pipelines, you've got your notebooks for your analysis, and then you've got the front end Power BI to do the visualization. So you're not replicating data, you're not taking it from one system to another. You can all have it in one place. But as I say, it's one of those tools where, as a small company, I'm not quite sure that you can justify the cost. I know it does scale down depending on how much processing power you need. But that kind of thing, trying to not pull all your data into one place and have the whole process so that any changes, you're not trying to find 50 different places where you need to amend your code. You don't have that knock on effect. Change it once and it should flow through so that you don't end up with rubbish coming out and cutting your hair out trying to work out where it's gone wrong.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, well, thanks ever so much for your time this afternoon, Alan. It's been great having you on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Now, the other thing I'd like to say about the way things are going is investing in less silos than we used to have. It all used to be you would have these mysterious actuaries who would sit separate, and then you'd have the underwriters who would be separate somewhere else, and they all did. There was never really any sort of crossing over. Whereas now you have skilling data scientists and data engineers, and certainly in a smaller company where you need to do a bit of everything. It's great so that you're not just focusing on part of the chain. It helps when you get a wider picture of what's going on and why. And it also helps when your model comes out with something that to an underwriter would look at it and just say, that can't be right. You have that kind of rounded picture to be able to
Yeah.
see where it's gone wrong. You may not know why, but at least starting point, that can't be the right answer. I don't know why it's not, but I know it's wrong. And then that should help improve pricing going forward, and certainly the development that we've seen more trend towards using data. Personal lines have been good at it for many years. Commercial lines is far more focused now on their data. And it's no longer a case of we need that specialist underwriter who's been doing it for 20 years. You can't possibly do anything with data. There is a shift now to utilizing the data alongside the skill of that experienced underwriter who can then take that and apply it and say, I see what that means to this particular risk, blending those skill sets into a unified solution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting the breakdown of those silos and the multi-skilled that are coming in under the same banner, where we've got the data engineers, the scientists, deployment specialists, and so on all together. And subject matter experts, absolutely. People that actually know about the things we're insuring and can help us with setting the prices. Or indeed people that are good at pricing and know about what we're insuring as well. Brilliant. All right. Thanks a lot, Alan. Excellent. You have a good rest of your day.
And you